What's going on, guys? It's the Bigs Podcast, episode number 85, and welcome to the All-Star Week. We don't have a week to review because we were off all of last week. So the extended week gives us the opportunity to look back on the season and take a look at who's really been doing well for each team and who's really been struggling for each team. And we get the opportunity to see who did the best picking up and dropping of players for the season. With me tonight, and the man who did all of the research on this one will be pretty much taking it after I'm done introducing everybody. From Denver, Colorado, Jason Ashby. Jason, you undertook this entire thing. What did you find? What's the most exciting thing you found?
It was just fun to see just where we are in midway through the season. We've been talking about how crazy the season has been, and it shows like that. So basically, I looked at everybody's MVP and Cy Young to this point, and then also their best ad and their worst drop to this point, based on stats from the start of the season till now. And there are some that are kind of obvious, and then there were some that might surprise people. So there was a little bit of everything. The ads and drops. There's going to be some repeats. I tried to do everybody's best ad for a hitter and a pitcher, and worst drop for a hitter and a pitcher. Didn't work for everybody, so we'll kind of go team by team and see how everybody did.
That sounds like it's going to be awesome. With us as well tonight, right over there, my roommate, the commissioner, and the three-time Bigs champion, Ben Nisman. Benny, how are you feeling this evening?
Feeling great, Joe. It was a real nice, relaxing all-star break, and looks like it's always exciting as we come out of it and we get this 10-day matchup grind with our opponents. And after this matchup, we get into that second group that we already faced once. So a lot to talk about in the coming weeks, and it should be a photo finish as we discussed.
Absolutely. This is going to be an incredible finish to this season. We've got so many teams in the hunt, and it's only getting closer if this long week plays out as we see it so far. Jason, kick us off here, man. What do you got? Who are we leading off with?
All right, so we're going in the order of the standings coming out of the break. So that's going to start us off with Josh Haber, who sits on top of the league. And his MVP so far this year is going to be Nick Castellanos with a big bounce back year. Given the stats real quick, he's 105 for 361. So that's a 291 with a 332, 51 runs, 26 doubles, a triple, 13 homers, 55 RBIs, 6 steals, 24 walks, and 101 strikeouts so far this year. And he's been his best hitter all year long. Like, it's been, again, just a real bounce back year after his really rough first year in Philadelphia last year. It's been a real nice year for Castellanos, and Josh has reaping the benefits.
Where did Josh draft him?
Eighth round.
That's really nice value. Benji,
Yeah.
what do you think of Nick Castellanos for Josh?
What surprises me is that when Jason says these stats, it's not like overly incredible. Like, yeah, near 300 batting average, just over 50 runs, like not even on pace for 100 runs, not on pace for 100 RBIs, but just balanced stats across the board. And what it tells me is that if that's his best player, that means that he has a really nice group of guys that's also contributing, because I don't believe that a team could be in first place with that guy leading the way so drastically with all the other guys. So there's been several different guys that have played a role here.
Yeah, and it's he's got guys like Austin Riley, who has pretty much underperformed, I think, to this point. He hasn't been terrible, but certainly not what you expected from that guy. Same with Xander Bogaerts. He hasn't really hit the ground running his first year in San Diego. Jordan Alvarez has been on the injured list for a while now. No real sign of him coming back. So there's a lot of firepower on this team that we may see more of here in the second half.
Yeah. Shout out to Lane Thomas, who has 50 RBIs this year. Where'd that guy come from?
Right. Like, a lot of these guys were either trades, or Ketel Marte was a trade. Francisco Alvarez got thrown around to 5 or 6 managers until he landed on Josh's team. Ellie De La Cruz, obviously, he came up later. Cody Bellinger was dropped by Frank in week 11 or week 12. Perdomo, right? I mean, it goes to show that this has been a really, really intelligent manager who's been able to work with different parts throughout the season. It hasn't just been a ton of stars on one roster.
Yeah.
And that's something I should note is these MVPs and Cy Youngs, I stuck with guys who have been on the team for the duration of the season. So this is not somebody they've added by waiver wire or by a trade. This is somebody they drafted and have held on to for the duration of the season that I'm counting as, their MVP or Cy Young so far.
Mm-hmm. Now, who was the now I know you hit on the MVP so far. Who was the offensive pickup?
The offensive, you mentioned his name. Ben mentioned his name. Ellie De La Cruz. This kid has just been lightning in a bottle right now for Josh and for the Reds. He's hitting 297 with a 333, 28 runs, 9 doubles, 2 triples, 4 homers, 16 RBIs, 16 steals, 8 walks, and 44 strikeouts since June 6th.
It's an insane stat line. And the 16 steals is what really surprises me. He's just stealing at will anymore. Incredible.
He stole 3 bases in 1 inning.
Yeah. What about the pitching side? What about the Cy Young and the pitching pickup?
Yeah, so the pitching side is interesting. Because I know coming out of the draft, Josh wasn't really excited with his pitching staff. But let me tell you, Logan Webb has just been really, really nice this year. In 126 innings, he's 8-7, 13 homers allowed, 23 walks, 127 strikeouts, a 3.14 with a 1.11.
Yeah,
that's as solid as you can get, and the Giants are right there. And he's his number 1 right now. He picked up obviously Sandy in the trade with you. He's gotten a great year out of Felix Bautista in the closer role. But I have to give credit to Logan Webb because, again, I know that Josh was not happy with his pitching staff coming out of the draft, and Logan Webb has really been solid.
Now, what about the pitching pickup? Did you find one in there?
Yeah, John Gray. Since he added him on May 9th, he's 5-4 with 48 strikeouts, a 293 and a 107. He's been a little struggling the last 2 or 3 outings, but overall he's really feasted on being out of Coors Field and having access to that Rangers lineup.
Very nice. Benji, what do you see on this pitching staff over here, man?
Just a ton of what I thought were question marks, and to an extent, I still feel like they are, especially in the rotation. The bullpen is as solid as they come compared to the rest of the league, but I just don't know what to make of. Logan Webb has now had a couple of good years in a row. It was more that I just did not necessarily believe in the San Francisco Giants, and they've kind of shut me up with a very peculiar offense that they put out every day. If you look at their lineup even today, it's like I feel like the Mets should be able to clobber them 9 days out of 10. But it's worked out for Kapler. It's worked out for this team. And James Paxton, just why is he having a resurgence? I mean, I realize he was an up and coming prospect on the Seattle Mariners, but he's been doing great. John Gray, big prospect for the Rockies that never came into fruition until he found his right spot there in Texas. And with that lineup giving him run support, it's been very beneficial. Josh makes the trade for Carlos Rodon. He makes the trade with Joe for Sandy Alcantara, and off he goes. He's got a lot of fun little weapons here that he can use. And do I know that this team can win a championship? Absolutely not. But it certainly could. It could certainly compete, and it could win 2 weeks in a row if he could get that bye. So it's a lot of different weapons, and it's all about how Josh is going to use them and how he predicts which guys are going to be the studs and which guys he should bench that week that could get blown up.
Right. Jason, you have anything else on Josh's team?
Yeah, so his worst drops. from the hitter position, Spencer Steer, and I know we've knocked him, here and there on the show, but he's having a really good season. He dropped him on April 16th. Ever since then, he's hitting 273 with a 361 on base, 37 runs scored, 15 doubles, 2 triples, 12 homers, 45 RBIs, 8 steals, 34 walks.
Wow.
He's having a really nice year, and he's playing all over the diamond for the Reds. So he's gotten, a lot of eligibility. I don't know that how he necessarily would have fit in Josh's lineup, but maybe he's better than Marcell Ozuna. So in left field, that's the only thing I came up with.
On the pitching side,
and this is going to be a number of us dropped this guy, myself included. It's Adbert Alzolay, the Cubs. Since he dropped him on May 22nd, the guy has 6 saves and 21 strikeouts with a 172 and 092 whip. He's been really good. He got knocked around. I think it was yesterday. He got knocked around, but overall, he's been really solid out of the Cubs bullpen.
Yeah. Maybe he's not as broken well, he is a broken prospect if he's a reliever, but I digress. Some of the best relievers are broken starter prospects. Mariano Rivera fits that bill.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to Bobby Russo?
Yes. So our number 2 team is going to be Bobby Russo. His MVP this year is Corbin Carroll, quite possibly the Rookie of the Year in the National League. The guy is hitting 2 with a 359, 64 runs, 20 doubles, 3 triples, 18 homers, 48 RBIs, 26 steals, 32 walks, and 71 strikeouts. The kid is just unstoppable.
You know whose season this reminds me of? This reminds me of a Mike Trout rookie season. Where he was hitting like 30 bombs, stealing 40 bases, and hitting like 300 or somewhere around all of that. This just feels like that's what he's getting this year.
And we'll talk about his. He didn't have his best ad hitter. He really didn't add. His lineup is really the same as it was coming out of the draft. So offensively, it's he added. I think he added TJ Friedel. No, I think he drafted Friedel. So yeah, he really didn't add anybody of note to his lineup. And on the pitching side, the Cy Young is going to go to. I'm giving it to Justin Steele. He missed time with an injury, so he's only had 97 in the 3rd innings, but he's 9-3. He's only allowed 6 homers, 20 walks, with 87 strikeouts, 296 with the 111 whip. He's been really nice, and Bobby drafted him. Actually, this was an ad. He did add him just before the start of the season, so he's had him all year. But he got him off the waiver wire just after the draft, and what a find he's been.
Yeah, I'll call that the 27th round that you drafted that guy in that time period before the season starts while you're still filling out the roster. Benji, this is one of the best teams in the league so far this season. What have you seen on either side of the ball?
I'm shocked in general coming out of the draft. I thought, because this team is so damn young, it was just going to really have some growing pains. And Bobby's made it work. I didn't expect Corbin Carroll to have this kind of season. I really didn't. I thought even, Adley Rutschman could take a step back. Cronenworth was probably one of my favorite picks where he got him, and he's been probably the most disappointing in the group. So on the hitting side, very, very surprised. On the pitching side, what's been going on makes a little bit more sense to me. I thought, solid, decent enough numbers out of Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola, obviously, he's always a guy you're not really necessarily sure what you're going to get. 8-6 with a 4.39 ERA, 120 Ks over 30 walks. It's livable, but it's certainly not even a number 2 or even a number 3 starter, and especially not in the bigs. So Bobby's doing it kind of similarly to the way Josh is doing, with really excellent management and playing by the score every day. And I feel like the reason that these 2 guys are at the top of the standings goes far beyond what's on the roster, and that's what's most impressive.
I want to give a shout out for a pickup to Bailey Ober. I know I had him at one point, and he was in and out of the rotation early on, and for the season, 82 and 2/3, 5-4, 79 strikeouts, a 261 and an 097 for Minnesota. They found a way to get this kid into the rotation, and he is absolutely flourishing.
He's definitely the best pitcher ad that he had. He's the best ad that he had all year. It's Bailey Ober, absolutely. As far as the drops, he dropped Isaac Paredes. He hasn't been lightening it up, I guess, since he dropped him, but it's the best of the worst that I could find. 267 with a 389, 27 runs, 9 doubles, 12 homers, 37 RBIs, and 28 walks since he dropped him on April 29th. So it's been nice, and I know you've been reaping those benefits. So good on you for that. Yep. He also dropped Scuff, who has 6 saves and 52 strikeouts with a 194 and an 087 since he dropped him on April 16th. So he's been really good for a lot of us have owned this. Yeah.
All right. Bobby is sitting pretty in the number 2 spot right now, although he's in a dogfight of a matchup with you, Jason. So let's see if we can make things a little bit more interesting at the top of the standings yet again this week.
Definitely gonna try.
Let's bounce over to Mike Haber, who does sit in the number 3 spot, but only percentage points behind Bobby Russo in the standings. What do you got for him on his MVP?
No surprise here. It's Marcus Semien. He's hitting 272 with a 342, 75 runs, 27 doubles, 2 triples, 12 homers, 58 RBIs, 9 steals, 43 walks, and 61 strikeouts. 6 errors is not pretty, but he's just been a hitting machine, just as you would expect.
And he's playing every single day yet again. It's just no surprise here. This guy is an everyday player, time and time again. Benji, are you surprised that it's Marcus Semien on the offensive side?
Not really, not at all. I was more surprised by the team name as of late. It's a little bit unusual. I personally really love Nobody Puts Bibi in the Corner, that excellent Dirty Dancing reference. And then he just kind of switched off of it pretty quickly. And I wasn't, this is not my favorite of his team names, who's one of the best at making team names. But getting away from that and getting onto the team a little bit, this is a pretty solid offense. I mean, when you can put together Guerrero and Semien and Correa, and to a lesser extent, this guy Duran, who's been solid, and of course Bryce Harper and Chris Bryant and Cedric Mullins, who's been a pest to Mike Haber through his history. Out of the 3 teams that we've discussed, this is the offense that I actually believe in the most to carry a team. And on the pitching side, obviously Verlander hasn't been exactly vintage Verlander, but he's still been solid enough to lead his staff. And you got Joe Musgrove there and a solid bullpen. So, yeah, it's not surprising that Mike Haber is where he is in the standing, not to mention his excellent management has carried him a lot of the way. No
doubt. Now, who is the Cy Young for us, Jason?
It's actually going to be the guy who was the namesake the very first time this year. It's George Kirby. I'm giving it to 112.2 innings, 8 8, 13 home runs allowed, 11 walks, 93 strikeouts, a 343 and a 107. And he's had a couple of blowups, but for the most part, it's just quality start after quality start after quality start for this guy. He pitches. The problem is he'll go 8 innings and get a loss because he gives up 1 run and the Mariners can't score a run for him. But he's had a really fine season.
Yeah, I'm seeing a whole lot of really nice starts. 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, 7 innings, looks like 2 earned, 7 innings and 7 strikeouts. He's been a very solid guy. And him, Musgrove, and Verlander down the stretch here, I would be really concerned about playing those guys. And guess what? They're on my schedule. He's on my schedule at some point this season. So I'm not really looking forward to this. What do you got for pickups and drops?
Yeah, so his best pickup on the hitting side is going to be his catcher, Yona Heim. Since he added him on April 11th, the guy's hitting 281 with a 339, 37 runs, 19 doubles, 11 bombs, 56 RBIs, 23 walks, and he's an all-star. he's been excellent. And Mike came out of the draft with really no catcher, and he's been able to plug this guy in and not have to think about it ever since.
This is, I remember a couple of seasons ago. I don't remember if it was 21 or 19. But at some point, he needed to make a move for a catcher and ended up going Pedro Severino on the Orioles, who just ended up being like their all-star or was like crushing the ball and whatnot. And I remember just saying, like, how did you find this guy? And he goes, I just found the guy in the middle of the order. Well, here's Jonah Heim, who pairs very nicely with Marcus Semien and Leody Taveras and Ezekiel Duran in this really good lineup that he has all of the cheap access to. Really, really interesting way to go about that.
On the pitching side, his best ad was Braxton Garrett. He added him on April 28th, and since then the guy's gone 4-4 with 75 strikeouts, a 269 and 096. He's been lights out for the Marlins.
Very
big
nice.
find.
Very nice.
As for the drops, well, maybe it's a Haber thing because it's Spencer Steer and Alzolay for Mike too.
I mean, so I think we're gonna see those guys across a couple of more teams. If I'm
we absolutely will.
Benji, you look like you got something. What do you got? Oh no, not really. It's just it's intriguing that both Haber brothers have the same guys there. I look at this team and I'm wondering, like, was there really a bad draft pick like throughout the entire group? Like maybe Anthony Rendon where he got him, but I remember him getting him fairly late. So, I mean, this was just a pretty damn solid draft. And
he got Rendon. He got Rendon in the 11th round, which I remember because I remember because he took him just before I was going to take him that round, and he scripted him just before I did. So I ended up with Eugenio Suarez, which I wasn't happy about. I really wanted Rendon, and I guess it worked out.
Yeah, I'll say.
Vlad, Verlander, Semien, Mullins, Correa, Bryant, Musgrove, Kirby, Fairbanks, Harper, Rendon, Jose Miranda in the 12th. Is that the bad draft pick?
Yeah, that would be it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kendall Graveman, Floro, Herget. Like, okay, yeah, that's where
it gets ugly. Yeah, it gets ugly in that group, I'm sure. I mean, he went so offensive heavily in the first few rounds.
Mm-hmm. But you essentially went 10 for 11 if we want to count Rendon as a weak draft pick in the 11th round at 175. Like, you went 10 for your first 10. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job. All right. Who's up next?
That's going to be our commissioner.
Oh, Benjamin, you are on the clock. And what are we going to talk about with his MVP, Jason?
I mean, it's got to be Luis Arias, right? I mean, it's your namesake, and it's a guy pushing 400. 380 with a 431, 40 runs, 19 doubles, a triple, 3 homers, 43 RBIs, a steal, 28 walks, and 20 strikeouts. I mean, the guy's going to be back-to-back batting champions in each league. That's just incredible.
Mm-hmm. Benji, how much do you love this guy?
Yeah, I not only do I love him, I agree. I have to say that when I look at my offense and I notice there have been some bright spots, I think this guy is far and away my best player.
Shout out to Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, I mean, Soto's having like a Soto year.
RBIs.
Yeah, Soto's a down year, and Nolan Arenado has really picked it up in the last month and a half for sure. But yeah.
And Will Smith is having a great year, but you can't outdo what Arias is doing right now.
380, my goodness.
Yeah.
What about the Cy Young?
Cy Young, I have first closer. I'm giving it to Camilo Doval. The kid is he is ridiculous, just unstoppable. 43 innings, he's 2-3 with 28 saves, 2 homers allowed, 17 walks, 57 strikeouts, a 251 with a 105 over 43 appearances. He has been absolutely magnificent.
That's a lot of appearances. It's not even, and like Tyler Rogers has the same amount on the same team. Benji, I noticed you locked down the San Francisco bullpen here. Really smart idea. How are you feeling having those 3 guys?
Feel great about it. Had to wait a little bit to get Tyler Rogers back from Jason, but I think it was a good decision to pounce on him and use one of those waiver claims on him. And I gotta say that I was not thinking that this guy would be as good as he was. I felt like he was my next favorite closer that was on the board at the time, and that's why I grabbed him. But I certainly didn't expect this. I expected that maybe he'd be a guy that loses his job at a certain point during the season, or that Gabe Kapler would be like that mix and match guy and be like, oh, now I got to use a lefty to close the game. And that's when I lost Taylor Rogers, I think, to you, Joe, and thinking like, oh, you know what? There's going to be some opportunities for Taylor Rogers at the end of the game if he's facing some lefties. But Gabe Kapler's been consistent with Doval and saying like, that's my ninth inning guy and I'm sticking with him. But I did want to say, although I completely agree that Doval is the Cy Young of this entire pitching staff, that Michael Wacha, as far as the starting pitchers and maybe in general, the second best pitcher, an 8-2 record, a 2.84 ERA, 73 strikeouts over 25 walks. That's nearly a 3-1. And I think those are really solid numbers that I don't think any one of us really expected, considering on Boston last year, yeah, he had a sub 3.5, but it was over a very short amount of innings. I mean, it was 23 starts and 127 innings last year that he pitched to a 3.32 and a 112. This year, he's got a 107 whip and he's already got 85 innings. And yeah, like I said, an 8-2 record and a 2.84 on a bad Padres team, on a team that's been bad, very disappointing as far as what we expected of the Padres. This has been their best pitcher and mine as well on the rotation.
And by the way, also shout out to the big bounce back year for Josh Hader, having a ERA just over 1. So it's, the Padres have been disappointing, but not because of Wacha and Hader.
What else you got for us on this team, Jason?
All right, so Ben, your best ad, Ranger Suarez. Since you grabbed this guy on May 30th, he's 2-3 with 46 strikeouts, a 2.47 with a 120. Solid pickup.
Yeah, dude.
But I'm giving your worst drop. I'm giving it to. It doesn't hurt you because you have Will Smith, but Elias Diaz has been really hot at the bat. Dropped him on April 19th. He's 260 with a 310, 20 runs, 10 doubles, 7 bombs, and 35 RBIs. And he's an all-star. Again, it doesn't hurt you at all. But
was never going to have the space for him unless I was going to be playing catchers every day.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, I think that guy's going to bounce around this league a couple of times as well. I feel like I might have owned him at some point too.
Yeah. He is definitely one of the bicycles. Absolutely.
Yeah. And if that's my worst drop, I don't think I've done terribly in that department. But what I will say is that I do wish that now looking back, I had that trade back with Jason. And Jason was really, really brilliant as far as, I'm not going to give you 2 pitchers. I'll give you Taylor Rogers and I'll take Taijuan Walker off your hands after he had a very, very poor first month, I believe. And since that trade, he has really flourished. He's at a reasonable ERA, just around 4. I think his record is something like 10-2. So that's definitely a trade. I think I was just not patient enough with Taijuan Walker, and off he went. And if he was on this team, I think my team would be in better shape with Walker and not having Taylor Rogers.
I think we could agree with that. It's a reliever piece that bounced around the league anyway. So,
yeah, and Walker's been just fine for me. So thanks.
Yeah, good job.
Yep. Who's up next? Is that going to be Frank?
He moves to Frank.
Hi, Frank. MVP. Welcome to the show. I know you're listening now.
Love you, Frank. MVP. This is not a surprise. It's Paul Goldschmidt. The guy's hitting 285 with a 370 on base, 54 runs, 21 doubles, 16 homers, 49 RBIs, 8 steals, 47 walks, 88 strikeouts. Just another Paul Goldschmidt type year. The guy just keeps on hitting.
Shout out to Lindor with his 19 homers. Other than Schwarber's, Schwarber's still got 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lindor's got a boatload of RBIs for a shortstop. I'm pretty sure there's no shortstop with more RBIs than Francisco Lindor right now.
I just I just couldn't get past the 232, 316.
No,
no
I
doubt.
get it.
Maybe,
I get it.
yeah,
I get it.
yeah,
But it's just as far as the numbers, besides what he's doing, batting average
yeah,
wise on base, to have 60 RBIs and 56 runs on a team that's what 7 under or 8 under right now in the Mets, like that's impressive. And we can say I don't recall where Kyle Schwarber was picked in the draft. I think we can probably say, yeah, this was probably a bad draft pick. He really has turned it on as of late. And even though he has gotten batting average horrendously under 200, it's still 25, 56, 55. I feel like, basically anytime he gets a hit, it's an extra base hit. So there is still value in this guy. All right, I'm getting it right now. He's got 66 hits on the season and 25 of them are home runs. When you look at it, it's just like almost half his hit, like not quite half his hits, but just about.
Once you add in the 12 doubles
the
and
12
one triple,
doubles,
more
right.
than half of his hits are extra base hits.
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's
He's not a
interesting
single-
is that this is the offense. I don't think Frank's going out and adding any pieces to this. This is what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
This is the strategy for the season. I don't foresee him adding bench pieces here.
No, I don't think so either. And especially while he's in this kind of position, while he's in a playoff spot, there's no reason to change, until he starts feeling that there's somebody climbing up his back and there might be a chance where he might get trounced from that playoff spot. He might make some drastic decisions accordingly. But right now, I don't think there really is a necessary reason to change.
No. The offense is really, really solid. There's no reason to really fix what's working.
Yeah. And none of the pieces that are on the offense are guys he picked up off of free agency. So I'm wondering what his best pickup is going to be.
We'll get there. Let's hit on his Cy Young, which, again, no real surprise. It's Spencer Strider. 110 innings, 11-3, 14 homers allowed, 34 walks, 176 strikeouts, which I believe leads the league, a 366 and a 110. Not great on the run prevention side, but the guy's been just absolutely impressive.
Yeah, 176 strikeouts over 110 innings. He is on pace for a 300 strikeout season, and he might not eclipse 200 innings to do it.
Yeah, I'll go on record and say that although Jason said no surprises here, I'm one that will say that I am surprised. I thought this guy might be a sophomore slump kind of guy that, we're really not sure what we're getting. And Frank went all in on him, and that was very, very ballsy, but, he got it right.
Yeah. Yeah. What do we got for pickups, Jason?
So his pickup is going to be Tyler Wells. He picked him up on He picked him up on May 7th, and since then the guy's 5-3 with 76 strikeouts, a 310 with a 101. He's been a really good find, and he's been stuck in this rotation now, and he's been really solid.
Well done. I know Frank is really enjoying what Tyler Wells is doing for him this year. He's talked quite a bit about him. He certainly tried to trade him a couple of times too, but I think holding on to that guy is the right move at this point.
I mean, since May 24th, he hasn't pitched fewer than 5 innings in any start. So it gives you innings, and most of them are quality. He has a ERA over 3 in like 2 of those starts since then. So he's really been solid. His worst drop, you're welcome, I think. Anthony Santander. He
indirectly.
Yeah, he dropped him on May 2nd, and since then he's hitting 296 with a 367, 38 runs, 16 doubles, a triple, 14 bombs, 39 RBIs, 22 walks, and 51 strikeouts. Again, we talked about his offensive strategy, so I guess he didn't fit in, but the production is just really solid.
Yeah, he leads the Orioles in RBIs. It's not pretty.
Yeah.
And
I believe he was his, I want to say 8th round pick, something around there.
That's right. 113th overall, 8th round pick.
Yeah, it's fair. And honestly, I kind of could throw in another guy. The second one would be Isaac Paredes. I know a couple of people have dropped him, but that was the one that Frank used his waiver claim So use the waiver claim. I don't even know how long he kept Paredes, but he was off the team real quick. Joe jumped on him again. He's been on Joe's team ever since. But I think that's another guy that between Santander and Paredes, if one of those guys stayed on the team, Schwarber probably would be the guy that was out.
Not to dismiss that, but the third one that I would also say, who also ended up on my team, is William Contreras, who has been annihilating the ball recently. And I just don't see why we needed to go get Travis d'Arnaud and shed this 9th round pick. So it's the 8th rounder in Santander, the 9th rounder in William Contreras, and the 10th rounder in Brendan Donovan was the trade for Michael Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that all you got on him, Jason?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's going to take us to our first rookie of the season, and that's going to be Henry Collins, who is just tearing it up right now, sitting in 7th place, right outside the playoff spot. His MVP, it's his new namesake. It's Kyle Tucker. Guy's hitting .299 with a .377 on base, 48 runs, 22 doubles, 14 bombs, 62 RBIs, 15 steals, 44 walks, and 51 strikeouts. Right in the middle of the Astros lineup, he's leading everything in there. He is, making maybe an MVP case.
I mean, if he's not, Luis Robert is, and if it's not him, Josh Naylor and his 66 RBIs and 308 batting average is. Like, this team is really stacked, and I don't think anybody thought that this was going to be that good a team coming out of the draft.
It looked like it was a team that had enough balance because it had the ace with Cole. He made sure that he listened to my advice and said, do not ignore bullpen in the draft, Henry. And he listened to your shows about relief pitching. And I think he did a brilliant job creating this bullpen and just a lot of dynamic pieces as far as the offense goes. Now, there was like a left field issue at one point, and Will Myers was the only guy that could be left field. And there was like a weird thing going on because you had Tucker and Springer and Luis Robert, and he couldn't necessarily play everybody at the time, but he's made it work. And Matt Chapman having a resurgent year. Bryson Stott was probably his best draft pick maybe arguably one of the best draft picks in the entire draft where he got Bryson Stott, considering this guy is just, he's so electric and he does so many things, and he's batting .303, 8 home runs out of your shortstop, second base, 34 RBIs, 45 runs. I mean, the guy has just been unbelievable. And
22nd round.
Yeah.
22nd round. I believe he only had 59 strikeouts is a really good number. His on base is 340. That's pretty solid for this kind of a player in the middle of the infield. So
no
he's been doing terrifically. I think the only bugaboo on him, or the only knock that I've had on him that I think he would say on himself, is that he's benched a lot of stats that would have won him stats through the week. And he was criticizing himself. I was saying, like, dude, it's not your offense. Like, it's not your rotations, because he was having a tough beginning of the year. If you remember that he was sort of low in the standings and had a climb here. And I said, it's not your offense. It's not your rotation. It's not your bullpen. He's like, so it's the manager. And I'm like, no, man, it's not that. It's just kind of feeling out and learning what your pieces are, and like getting kind of a feel to it. And sometimes that takes a couple of months, but right now this guy is soaring, and it's just very impressive to see. And especially being a rookie manager, we don't typically see this kind of learning curve from a rookie this quickly.
It's been really impressive. What do you got for ad drops, Jason?
So, let's hit on his Cy Young real quick. And I'm going to give that to another closer. You mentioned his bullpen. Carlos Estevez. Talk about a bounce back campaign for this guy. 37 innings. He's 3-1 with 21 saves, 4 homers allowed, 19 walks, 44 strikeouts, a .219 with a 130 over 38 appearances. He is, and I remember coming out of spring training, we were saying, This guy is not going to be the closer on the Angels. He had a horrible spring training, and he's been one of the best closers in the league. So there you go. That's baseball. Yeah.
I was so annoyed when Mike Haber took Jimmy Herget. Like, I was so annoyed. I was like, man, I didn't need to take Merrill Kelly here. Like, Herget would have been better. Like, we were all wrong. It was SFS. And like, that just goes to show that sometimes, like, you could have all the research in the world, but you don't know what that manager is thinking. You don't know what their plans are in spring training. You don't know if they care whether the guy's having a bad spring or not. He's going to go with his guy, and his guy was Estevez.
Yeah. And when you pair that guy with Devin Williams and Joan Duran, you've got a really nasty bullpen.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the rest of your pieces are. Like, that's a nasty bullpen once you have those guys. The rotation is stout. We've talked about it before, but Garrett Cole anchors that thing and is having about the best season he's had in pinstripes at bare minimum and maybe of his career.
Yeah. Well said. And the fact that he went with a couple of question marks, like Charlie Morton, I think we all felt like this guy was going to just get bombed and be like a Zach Greinke-ish, like an Adam Wainwright. I mean, I'm talking about all guys that are older than us, but a 10 and
so
6
is Morton.
record. Right, that's what I'm saying. Like 10-6 with a 3.20, 115 Ks over 43 walks. No. There is no way I could have expected this. And that is number 2 starter type stuff. Like, insanely impressive. Couldn't have seen it coming. Zach Eflin has been another great guy. I mean, where did this come from, right? Like, he's had some good years on the Phillies, but a 10-5 with a 3.59 ERA, 105 strikeouts over 15 walks. What? Hello? 105 over 15? It's stupid. It's just been incredible rotation and a very, very scary team. And we said this on previous shows, but if this is a team that crashes the playoff party, could go on a deep run and shock us all.
Yeah, I think you're dead right on this one. And this is one of those guys who, once he gets a taste of that playoff experience, is going to want it so much more. So this race does everything to get us another lifer in this league. Now, what are the ad drops?
All right. His ad, you mentioned his name, Josh Naylor. He added him on May 27th. And since then, the guy's hitting 389 with a 419 on base, 21 runs, 14 doubles, 4 bombs, 32 RBIs, 8 walks, and 23 strikeouts. Just terrific. Just absolutely terrific. He leads the Guardians in RBIs at last check. He's having just a fantastic season.
Insane. What about a drop?
Drops. He dropped Elias Diaz. He dropped John Gray. He really didn't have a real standout, like, oh my God, drop. So
That's great.
Got to give credit to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure there had been a time where, oh no, like Will Myers, he's gone, but that was not the wrong decision. Perdomo, way too early to decide whether that's a bad drop. Like, he got a lot out of Perdomo, like a lot more than we even expected the guy to be. Guy ended up being an all-star. And if he feels like I've gotten what I needed out of this guy, but my group infield, it has been a Chapman, an Adames, Bryson Stott, Andres Jimenez. Those are my guys, and I don't want to confuse it too much and flip-flop too much. Perdomo's the odd man out. I respect it. Like, I respect the decision to say, like, I've gotten what I've needed out of this guy, and I need no more.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's been our rookie of the year so far. I mean, this has been an incredible run if this is as far as it goes. But to quote somebody, I don't know who it was, he didn't come this far to only come this far.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. When you get, and that's the other thing, like, if he gets in the playoffs, we'll say, this has been a great season. But I think we can speak for all of us when you say, it doesn't matter who expected us to be here, how I got here, like, I'm in it, like, I gotta finish it off. Like, there's no excuses at that point. And we've all been in that spot. So it'll be very interesting if, I'm not going to say when he gets into the postseason this year. I'm sure, he sticks with us. There's going to be plenty of playoff appearances in his future. But as far as this year, it'll be very interesting to see his mentality, his emotions through it all.
Yeah, it's second half of the season. You can't hold anything back now.
That's right.
Jason, who's up next?
That's going to be our 8th place team. That's going to be James McCloskey.
Are we skipping Costas? Sorry, but
yes, we are. We totally
went from
Costas.
5. We went from 5 to 4 to
7.
5 to 7. 5 to 7. It was just like, what?
That's what he gets for skipping the Mets game. Yeah, let's talk about.
I just got that.
Let's talk about Costas, shall we? All right. His MVP is probably the MVP of the National League, Freddie Freeman, 314 with a 394, 72 runs, 32 doubles, a triple, 17 homers, 63 RBIs, 12 steals, 44 walks, and 75 strikeouts. What else can you say?
I don't think my whole team has 32 doubles on the season.
Such a
it's just
patient
unreal
hitter. Such a patient hitter. Like if he's not, if it's a bad pitch, like he's not swinging at it. He's going to draw the walk and pass the baton. And if it's in his wheelhouse, he's going to murder it. It's a really, really good first round pick. As some would say, yeah, obvious, but there were a good amount of first basemen on the board. And I think that Costas had like the 5th or 6th pick. So he was all in on this guy and he got it right.
7th overall.
Yeah. And like this guy, like he doesn't slump. Like I feel like he never has like a, over 16 or anything like that. Like, he doesn't go through a slump.
Right. And everybody goes through a slump. Like literally all the hitters do, but you're right. It just doesn't seem like he does.
Yeah. Like even if he's not hitting, he's taking walks and he's stealing bases. Like he's always doing something.
Scoring runs.
I want to give a shout out to Fernando Tatis, who only has 66 strikeouts and 309 at bats. That is not something I would have seen from that player's skill set a year ago.
Yeah.
With a 342 on base. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like going to probably strike out less than 125 times over 500 at bats. For that kind of hitter, yeah, you would expect more strikeouts. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's only got 2 guys who have 100 strikeouts, and JD Martinez and Nolan Gorman. And Gorman's a guy he picked up mid-season, so not all of those strikeouts exist in his lineup.
Right. It's not surprising this team is doing very well.
Yeah.
His Cy Young is going to be Zach Gallen, 123 in the 3rd innings, 11-4, 10 bombs allowed, 26 walks, 130 strikeouts, a 314 and a 108. Again, I think he is Costas' Cy Young pretty much week after week, so no real surprise there.
Yeah, and he's a dude who's pushing for the NL Cy Young, but he's the only guy who has more than 100 innings pitched on his team for the season.
Yeah. Yep.
This is not a team that I think is deep when it comes to the rotation, and that might hurt him in the long run. Like, other than Gallen, I don't think there's a guy. I mean, do you trust Alex Cobb? Do you trust Alek Manoah? Do you trust anybody whose name doesn't start with ALE?
Yeah, I don't know. I really want to trust Alek Manoah. He came back and gave a good start just before the break. Maybe that's maybe he's turned it around. I don't know, but I definitely don't trust Alex Cobb.
We're going to find out tomorrow against San Diego for Alek Manoah. Benji, what do you see on this pitching staff, man?
A lot of question marks, like you discussed. I mean, and honestly, I realize Zach Gallen is having an incredible year, and it's something we kind of expected out of this guy to be a superstar strikeout machine. But it's really about the bullpen with Costas, and it has been since 2021. He joined us in 2020, and since then, I just feel like he's had a knowledge of how to build a bullpen and how to compete against other bullpens week to week. And as far as the rotation goes, he doesn't need to have a great rotation. He needs to just have a better rotation than his opponent week to week. And I think this group can do that. And that's all that matters. And that might be enough to find his way and slide into the playoffs. I mean, he only needs to just chip away for 8 more matchups. I think he can do it.
He had a pretty interesting draft when you look at it. Alec Manoa in the 3rd, Jake McCarthy in the 6th, Tristan McKenzie in the 7th, Ahmed Rosario in the 8th, Hunter
Right.
Green in the 9th, Giancarlo Stanton in the 10th. It was not a good one.
Well said. You're absolutely right, Joe. I mean, when you look at that and how little value there is in that group that you just mentioned. But what does that say? I mean, that the picks that he got right, he slam dunked. The fact that guys like Lourdes Gurriel and Spencer Steer have really helped him. He had that guy, what was his name, Casey Schmidt on the Giants that was helping him for a minute. Jake McCarthy, he's been okay, I guess, but a 246 average, 213.28. That's not what he was hoping to get when he said, fuck it, let's just see how he does. Push the draft button. It was almost like, I just want this guy on my team. I have no idea, And like Trevor's Story, right? He hasn't even played on his team yet. Fernando Tatis missed the first 2 matchups for him. And this guy has just been very, very impressive. I don't know if it's just a matter of who he's been matching up against to help him get further along in the standings, but it's really just been propelled by one starter, basically, Tatis and Freddie, and I guess JT Real Muto to a lesser extent. But you just you look at this team, you're like, this is a 6th place. I mean, all right, I guess. But it's a lot of the success to me was the decision to say Alejandro Kirk, and I don't know where that guy was picked, but I'm sure that you didn't even mention that name.
He was literally the next round. He was literally the next round after
right. So now we're talking about what, like 6 guys in the first 10, 11 rounds?
And then DJ LeMahieu and Josh Rojas and Brad Boxberger.
It's a bad draft.
He went grocery shopping and got nothing but canned tomatoes.
Yes, right. And they all expired.
Yeah.
So it's impressive, and I don't know how the hell he's doing it, and you almost wonder, does that mean that his season is at its peak right now? But the manager himself has been working really, really hard with these pieces, and he's put together a roster that I think he's basically comfortable with. I'm sure he's still shopping and trying to make a trade happen at the deadline, but at the most part, this seems to be a decent enough group. It's just a matter of if he can match up against his opponents. He's got a very favorable schedule down the stretch.
I agree. What do you got for ad drops on this team since we just talked about how horrible his draft was?
Yeah. You mentioned Spencer Steer, and he picked him up after I think it was after Mike Haber dropped him. He grabbed him, and he's plugged him in there at third base, and he hasn't moved him. Since he added him on May 25th, he's hitting 298 with a 399, 24 runs, 7 doubles, a triple, 8 homers, 31 RBIs, and 8 steals, 24 walks. So and he's also gained. I think he only started with 1 position eligibility. Now he's first, third, and left. You can move him around. He plays every day for the Reds.
Except today.
Except for today. So he had today off, but he plays almost every day for the Reds. And he's been solid. He's been absolutely solid.
I think I'll go ahead and quote somebody, and I don't remember who it was, but that's not a steer. Look at this heifer. That is a good line you just gave. 299 with a 399 since he picked him up.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
Yeah. In about 2 months, over 2 month period of time, really.
Yeah.
And then for the pitching side, you mentioned the bullpen, and I'll mention real quick. I traded him. You mentioned Ahmed Rosario, and it wasn't a great draft pick, but it brought him Adbert Alzolay for I think the 2nd or 3rd time this season, and he is not going to let go of him now. And it doesn't count as a free agent ad, but the guy has 7 saves this year, and but his ad, the pitching side, is Jordan Hicks. Same idea. In 9 games, 8 1/3 innings, 7 saves, 10 strikeouts, a 216 with a 123 since June 15th. He is now the closer of the Cardinals. This is what we thought was going to happen for the last, I don't know how many years, and it never did because the guy couldn't stay healthy. And now here he is. I was the last guy to drop him. and he ended up on Costas' team. So between Alzolay and Hicks, I have built Costas' bullpen.
Good job. Way to go, buddy.
And then Kendall Graveman, right? Like, I think we kind of figured he could be the guy, but we weren't sure. So Ronaldo Lopez, like, who is going to be the closer there? He had him, and then Will Smith, that was another guy that was closing games for him, and he got it right with Kyle Finnegan for a little bit. I mean, it's just saves coming from every sick direction. And like, you look at his lineup today, he attempted to play 7 guys. Only 3 of them actually got a start today. So out of the 7 guys he played, 4 of them didn't even play. Maybe one of them got in. Okay, it looks like Nolan Gorman got in probably in a pinch hit, and he did hit a double. But I look at his line: 5 for 13, 3 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, an RBI, a walk, 3 strikeouts, a 385 average, and a 429 on base from 3.5 guys. Fuck you. Like, that's like just very frustrating. And I didn't get to finish my thought before with Alejandro Kirk. I felt like this team kind of took off when he decided Real Muto's the catcher, JD Martinez is my DH, and that's it. And he said goodbye to Alejandro Kirk. And I feel like since that drop, his team has taken a different direction. So I got to respect the maturity of this manager who continues to mature since 2020. Every single year we see something new from this guy.
Jason, you got anything else on this guy?
I don't. Good job,
All
Costas.
Right. Good job, Costas. Strong work from a crap draft. What do we got? Who's the 8th place team?
Okay, so that's gonna be McCloskey. His MVP is the guy we all were like, really? He took this guy 2nd overall, but it's Shohei Ohtani, because why not? He's hitting 301, 386, 67 runs, 15 doubles, 6 triples, 34 bombs, 73 RBIs, 11 steals, 50 walks, and 92 strikeouts, and somehow an error. And yeah, I mean, best hitter, best player on the planet. Like,
best player that may have ever lived.
Yeah,
that's where we're at with this now.
Maybe.
Because this is only half of what he does.
Yeah, we'll get to the other half later.
Yeah, I'm sure. Shout out to Corey Seager, who's hitting 355. You're welcome.
Yep, but he didn't have him all year, so he didn't qualify.
Yeah.
Same with Santander. His on the pitching side, it hasn't been as pretty on the pitching side, I'll be honest. But so I got to give it to Clayton Kershaw here, who's having a great year. Don't get me wrong. 255 with a 105 over 95 in the 3rd innings, 10-4, 12 bombs, 24 walks, and 105 strikeouts. He's having a great year. It's just the rest of his pitching is not.
And how much more of Kershaw are we going to see?
Right.
I keep saying 120 innings is a max here. That's 30 innings away, right? Like 125 is like 30 innings away. So what, is he going to come back for the stretch run? 6 weeks and you're going to get – no, 30 innings is what, 5 starts of 6 innings?
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a month, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, and having Kershaw, you never know what Dave Roberts is going to do as far as like you'll bring him back just to get him comfortable and getting him ready for the postseason, but that already might be our actual postseason in September, where James needs him in August. So it really is going to depend on what the Dodgers are doing. If the Dodgers are fighting for a division, then maybe he comes back a little bit earlier because they don't want to have to play a wild card game. They're going to want the bye. But if they're kind of running away with it, there's no reason to rush him. And that's what James McCloskey's in the mercy of, the fact that, it depends on what the Dodgers are doing. When I had Kershaw last year, I knew he'd have an IL stint. I just got fortunate that they activated him towards the end of August, and I was able to use him and Scherzer to help me get to the postseason. If that didn't happen, I probably would have gotten bounced out.
Yeah.
I will also give a shout out to Sonny Gray, who's been a really quiet starter with an ERA sub 3 so far this first half. So
Yes.
if the Twins are, I guess the Twins are in because they're still leading their division with a 500 record, but I digress.
By default.
What else you got for us, Jason?
Yeah, so his ads, Nolan Jones from Colorado, he picked this guy up on June 7th, and ever since then, the guy's hitting 287 with a 398, 15 runs, 5 doubles, 4 homers, 7 RBIs, 15 walks, and 31 strikeouts. And he's, even with Chris Bryant coming back, CJ Cron coming back, they're finding ways to get this guy into the lineup. He's a good bench piece to have. He has triple eligibility. And he's just a good guy to have on the bench for you to plug in for, if Santander is out for a game or Mountcastle's out, there's a good guy to just plug in there.
He's got 7 first base eligible dudes on this roster.
Can I just say, I have Randall Grichuk on my team. And on Friday, this guy faces the Yankees. He hits a bomb off of Rodon. He goes 2 for 2 with 2 runs, a home run and an RBI, no strikeout, right? Basically a perfect day for Randall Grichuk. He doesn't get in the lineup the next 2 days because Nolan Jones has to play. Like that's just like 2 days in a row after that kind of day. We need to rest you. And then they don't even have a game today. So the guy hasn't played in 3 days. Like, I can't stand Bud Black. I think besides Bob Melvin, like Bud Black, like he's part of the reason this team is shitty.
I mean, the fact that they don't have any good players is another reason that team is shitty.
Yeah, that's part of it.
I mean, to say that they don't have any good players, I just don't know if I agree with it. I don't think they have any great players.
Yes, that's what I mean.
They have a solid enough lineup that can compete. And holy crap, if you saw what they could do in the last couple of innings against the Yankees, I mean, that was just an incredible comeback.
Mm-hmm. That was a good comeback. That was a great comeback, actually.
Yeah.
As for this team, does this offense make the playoffs, Jason? Like, how do you feel looking at this offense?
The offense...
I mean, Adolis Garcia has 80 RBIs. Shohei Ohtani has 75 RBIs. And
I like the offense. I really do. I love the offense.
4 dudes with 50.
Yeah. Yeah, this offense is really, really stout. It's the pitching that worries me.
Ben, you feeling the same way?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is as good of an offense as you're going to see between Adolis and Santander and Corey Seager. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Ryan Mountcastle, Alec Boehm, Ha-Sung Kim is a very recent pickup against Frank, who since he had made that pickup, he's been great. And he's leading off very often for the Padres. How about the fact that Hunter Renfroe has 15 bombs, 42 RBIs, and 44 runs, and a 250 average? That's absolutely more than serviceable. I mean, he's going to be flip-flopping a lot of parts and be leaving a lot of good stats on the bench consistently, sure. But, I mean, in general, whatever 9 he puts out there is going to be lethal against whoever he's facing. But it's like you said before, you just wonder about the rotation and the bullpen. I mean, he's got Kenley, right? He's got a guy that can get him saves, so to win him that stat maybe against a couple of opponents down the stretch. I'd have to look at his entire schedule, though I think that for the most part, most of the guys he's facing has at least one closer, if not more, so it's going to be tough to win that stat. But the rotation, guys, I mean, who would you even say is his number one right now?
Sonny Gray.
Sonny Gray.
I guess.
Yeah.
Sonny Gray, Tony Gonsolin, Kyle Nelson, and Severino in that order. That's his 4 right now. Yeah. And it's not a great 4, but for much the same reason, like with Costas that we were just talking about, it doesn't have a great rotation either. I mean, if we want to believe that Kershaw, Woodruff, and Sonny Gray all healthy at the end of in the middle to the end of August can make that push, then that's what he's got to hope for.
Yeah,
that's all he's got.
Yeah.
I mean, barring a trade, and you could certainly make the argument that this team needs a trade. The offense is so good and so heavy, and your rotation and bullpen are so bad. that a trade almost has to happen for a pitcher.
Again, I know me and Mike have talked about it on past shows. He has Corey Seager, and he has Tim Anderson, and he has Ohtani. So there's no way to get all three of those guys into the lineup on the same day.
Right.
I'm sure somebody can use a shortstop.
To. Tim Anderson's been bad.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. But then, so what are you holding on to him for? Like, get a piece. You can get something for him. Somebody needs a shortstop.
Yeah, he's rocking with a really deep bench right now, way too big of a bench to the point where you wonder if maybe he could shed out at a couple of these bench pieces.
I feel like Mitch Garver is just a one-day thing. He's probably gone after today. But yeah, you guys are talking. He picked up JD Davis for today, so I don't know that that's going to exist much longer.
No, it's fair. That's fair.
There's a couple of pieces that are currently in the lineup we're looking at that probably aren't going to be there tomorrow. That doesn't make the pitching any better, though.
Right. I will say his ad on the pitching side, he added Jason Foley on April 18th, and this kid has been lights out. 31 games, 31 2/3 innings, 2-2, 3 saves, a 2.27 and a 103. With 27 strikeouts. Alex Lange is the closer, but this guy is definitely next in line.
Absolutely, and if Detroit sells Alex Lange at the deadline, this could be the next guy in line.
Exactly.
Immediately.
And the worst drop I'm going to give our good friend Tommy Pham. Who would have thought, right? But he had Tommy Pham. He dropped him on April 1st, and since then 282 with a 357, 25 runs, 14 doubles, a triple, 9 bombs, 34 RBIs, and 24 walks. He's been one of the best Mets hitters. Who would have thought?
Yeah. But the question is, where would he have been able to fit him in with all these other guys? You could argue like maybe he wouldn't even be as good, to have in there versus some of the other guys that he'd be playing for the stats that he needs. Right.
Mm-hmm. But that goes to show, like, if that's his worst drop, he's had some good drops. He's been pretty good on the waiver wire.
All right, let's move on to the 9th place team.
That's me.
Oh, that's you, Jason. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is fun. I get to critique my own team.
Who's your MVP?
I did not see this coming, but it's Christian Yelich. 286 with a 378, 69 runs, 20 doubles, 2 triples, 13 bombs, 49 RBIs, 21 steals, 47 walks, 84 strikeouts. We're partying like it's 2018 again.
Yeah, man. All of a sudden, this guy's good again. Benchy, did you see this coming?
No way. Certainly not with such consistent stats across the board, right? Like, he's filling up the stat sheet in every way possible.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see like 35 homers out of this guy again. But if you get 25 homers out of this guy, that's going to be very nice.
Right.
Along with 25 steals, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And shout out to Austin Hayes, who was like hitting like 330 recently and just kind of hit the skids recently.
Yeah, he was banged up towards the end of the first half, and it's kind of been slowing him down a little bit. But yeah, he's been a nice find for me too. My Cy Young is, of course, Framber Valdez, 117 in the 3rd inning, 7 and 6, 9 homers, 28 walks, 129 strikeouts, 276 with a 107. Not even really all that close.
He did have like some sort of thing this past start, right? Where he just walked off kind of gimpy. Did I miss that?
Yeah, the apparent injury is all that it's been. He had an ankle injury like a few weeks ago, but they haven't said if that's what it was. But he still struck out 13 over 6 and a 3rd innings in that start. So
take that. That's a good start.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. They haven't really said anything since that start. So
okay.
We'll see.
I guess no news is good news.
We'll hope. Let's hope. My best ad is Andrew Abbott. I've been happy with this kid. 41 and 2/3. He's 4-1 with 48 strikeouts, a 2.38 and a 103 since June 4th. He's had a couple of rough starts, but he's been mostly good. And even after Like he'll have a bad start and he'll come back with another good start. So I've been happy with this kid.
I see all of one bad start since he came up. It was 4 1/3 against Milwaukee. Everything else is a 450 or better.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, he's been very, very good. The only thing I would be concerned about, as I would with any rookie pitcher, is the second time he goes through the league is when people are going to start recognizing what he's all about. But as far as your rotation goes, man, Walker, Quintana, Cease, Eduardo, Cueto, Abbott, Valdez, Burns, Skubal. We were just talking about a team. Oh, and Grayson Rodriguez. We were just talking about a team that could probably use a trade for a starter.
Too bad I don't have any trades left.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
No.
Okay.
I don't have any trades left, so sorry.
That's right. He can't do that. Oh well. Tough nuts.
These are my guys. Nobody can have them.
Yeah. This is what it is. This is the team. And
yeah, and I will say that this is now the second year in a row, Jason, that you've maxed out your trades. Last year, your last one was with me. I traded you Barrios for Josh Donaldson. And it happened, I feel like maybe like not like a little bit later in the season, maybe like August 1st or August 7th. Yes. So you actually maxed out a little bit earlier.
And that was intentional.
Okay. So, I mean, are you still okay with the fact that we have the 6 trade maximum? Because I still like that rule, but I feel like you've been hamstrung by it more than everybody so far.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. I think it definitely adds another layer of challenge to the league, which I love because that's what the bigs is. This is not just your run of the mill fantasy baseball league. This is the bigs. This is the big time. I was down to the last trade and I was getting offers left and right from people, and it was getting a little overwhelming, to be honest. And I was just like, you know what? Let me just knock out this last trade. It was with Josh. It was for Jazz Chisholm, which, God, I hope he comes back sometime in August. Give me something, Jazz. But I wanted to get the last trade out of the way and not have to think about it the rest of the way. And just, here's what I got. Use the waiver wire as I usually use all 12 ads, and use what I got. And this is if I'm going to make it to the playoffs, this is what's going to bring me there.
Interesting. All right.
My drops, Jordan Hicks, who we talked about, and also talk about trades. Jarren Duran. I probably gave up on him a little too soon. I really thought that once Duvall came back, that Duran was going to be playing time was going to be a struggle, and maybe even he would go back to the minors. No, all he's done is hit 420 with a 444, 15 runs, 11 doubles, 2 triples, 2 bombs, 10 RBIs, 3 walks, and 14 strikeouts since I dropped him on June 9th. So, that's one I want to take back.
Where did he end up?
I believe Christian. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, between that and Hicks is not only a closer, he's a closer with SP eligibility. I mean, if you have those 2 guys on your team right now, instead of, I guess, like Chris Taylor and a Johnny Cueto or a Matt Brash or one of the Houston Astros relievers, you're in a much better position in striking distance of the playoffs, because then you have, just not just the one closer. If we even know that Magoo is, let's just assume that Magoo is a closer. You have him and Hicks. Like, you can basically go to war with most teams with that.
And at the time, again, I was the last guy to have Hicks before Casas grabbed him. And when I had Hicks, he wasn't the closer yet. And in fact, I think he was even hurt at one point while I had him. So had I known that, had I had a crystal ball, right, I never would have dropped him. But here we are.
Who knew that guy would go from the dreaded day-to-day red lines to getting saves? Ben,
Yeah.
you said it, that he's one of the rare guys that has SP eligibility and is a closer. Like I would argue that is the most valuable thing in the bigs is to have an SP eligible closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's one of them. I mean, a guy that doesn't play catcher but has catcher eligibility is a nice one.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I want to say hit better than Dalton
a DH that has shortstop eligibility. Yeah, like there are these, things like that where you avoid an error no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, like I see where you're going with this, but yeah, you can argue an SP eligible, a good closer with SP eligibility.
Right.
I had Seth Lugo in 2019, and when I traded for Seth Lugo, he wasn't the closer at the time; he was just a middle reliever with SP eligibility, and just down the stretch, he got that job. I forget who it was that we traded off. That
Jerry's familiar.
Is that what it was? Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, sir. All right, let's move on to Mike Sherman's team here and see what he's got.
Guy nipping at my heels. Yep, Mike Sherman. His MVP is, if Freddie Freeman is not the national MVP, this guy definitely is. It's Ronald Acuna Jr. 333 with a 414 on base, 82 runs, 25 doubles, a triple, 23 bombs, 58 RBIs, 43 steals, 48 walks, and 49 strikeouts. He has one more strikeout than walks.
It's insane. He's so good. He's so good this year. This is going to be better than any season we've seen in a long time. He's on pace for 40-40. He's on pace for 130 runs. He's on pace for – he's already got 43 steals. What's he going to do, 70?
Yeah.
40-70? Yeah.
and what's not fair is that the Braves offense is so good that sometimes you just have to pitch to him. Like, if it's not him, then you got to face Olsen or Albies or Murphy or Riley. It's relentless no matter who. So like at a certain point, this guy has to see strikes and he executes most of the time. It's very frustrating as a Mets fan.
Shout out to Bobby Witt Jr., who's basically being the poor man's Ronald Acuna, though. 16 homers, 27 steals, just with a bad strikeout percentage and not as good a batting average.
Right. Yeah. But when you have Ronald Acuna, you could do anything and not be as good as Acuna. So, on the pitching side, so he has Shohei Ohtani, who he hasn't been great as a pitcher this year. His ERA is 3.5. He has 139 strikeouts, 7-5. It's good. It's not unworldly. So I guess it could be him. I also called out David Robertson as the only guy really getting him saves. And he has a sub-2 ERA and sub-1 WHIP. So either of those two guys would be the choice for MVP. Shout out to Kodai Senga, who has really turned it on lately. After a rough start to the season, he's come along pretty well. So I guess you can throw his name in the ring too. But the pitching just doesn't excite me a whole lot, I guess, is what it comes down to.
I think it's better than what we saw in McCloskey's and Costas' team as far as the pitching is concerned. But you're right that there's just something missing here for some reason, Barrios is having a nice bounce back season. Senga's having a nice season. Javier is not. Ohtani's okay, I guess. And the bullpen. No. Go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say he's okay. I think you're saying that just because you're expecting like a superstar on both sides of the ball.
We're expecting ace numbers. Yeah.
Right, but he's a 3.5 ERA. Like he's still considering everything else he has to do, and he's got 139 strikeouts, over 46 walks, and he's got an over 500 record in a team that isn't really like a world-beating team in the Angels. Like he's still leading the way. Like he's having more than an okay year on the pitching side.
I guess
I needed to jump in there. I'm sorry.
No, and you're right. You're absolutely right. And I definitely think that there is some name bias going on here too. But also, and I'll be honest, I don't know exactly what goes into their math, but looking at the Yahoo rankings for so far in 2023, he's ranked 632 among pitchers. So
that makes no sense.
yeah. So again, I don't know what goes into that, but I look at that and I see, David Robertson's ranked 34. So okay, 34 is a lot better than 632. So what am I missing, Yahoo, that you would have Ohtani ranked in the stratosphere with good numbers? Again, they don't jump off the page at you. 139 strikeouts is really nice. The numbers are not unworldly, but I don't know. They're good. So is he worth 632, or should he be lower than that, or higher than that, whichever, better than that? Yeah. So that's kind of what kind of drew my eye.
I don't know. I look at this rotation and it's fine. It's not great. And I think it's indicative of where he is in the standings as well. Just, right around 500.
Yeah.
About his moves.
So both of his best ads and worst drops are both going to come on the offensive side of the ball. His best ad was Matt McLean. Picked him up on May 15th. The guy's hit 300 with a 366, 37 runs, 16 doubles, 4 triples, 7 homers, 29 RBIs, 7 steals, and 17 walks. He's striking out a lot, 64 strikeouts, but the rest of those numbers are just super impressive.
He's
the
a
rest
rookie.
just keep
He's supposed
turning
to
out
strike out a lot.
Prospect after prospect.
I mean, he's a rookie. He's supposed to strike out a lot. And here comes the next guy that's also on his team in Christian Encarnacion Strand.
Yep.
Here he comes.
They just keep on churning him out, He did drop Christopher Morel back on May 6th. And, at the time it made sense because he was sent down to the minor leagues. But since he came back, he's hit 267 with a 320, 36 runs, 8 doubles, a triple, 15 home runs, 38 RBIs, 14 walks, and 59 strikeouts. Nothing really exciting. The 15 home runs is a lot. And obviously he's got that crazy position eligibility. I had him for a while. I then dropped him. I believe he landed on Ari's team now. And he's still producing pretty well. Not as well as he was. There was that 12-game stretch or so where he was just hitting the cover.
Yeah, did he hit 9 homers in 12 games or something?
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to reap that benefit, but
no kidding, against me as far as
yeah. You remember that, huh?
I do. I recall.
Oh man! All right.
Moral of the story. Yeah.
Is it my turn now? Is that where we're going with this?
Yeah,
it is absolutely your turn.
We just want to close out and say that this is just, I mean, we saw what Mike did to Jason last week. He's going to give me a major ton of stress this matchup against me. And I believe his next matchup then is against McCloskey next week. I mean, just having the offense that he does is enough to just ruin your week. So even though there aren't it's not a world-beating offense, right? Like after Acuna and Bobby Witt and Albies and I guess McLean, it starts to thin out a little bit, but even Buxton can beat you in different ways. If he gets it right between Dubon and Tommy Pham, that'll beat you in some ways. He's got Jeremy Pena that can have a hot week for the Astros. So it's still it's one of those teams that though we're pretty sure is not going to make the playoffs, is enough to spoil someone's season the rest of the way.
It's just enough to make you go, come on. That. Now that was what I did all last matchup was just shake my head.
That's Sherman. That's Sherman in a nutshell.
Yep.
All right. My turn.
Yep. You ready? No. Well, your MVP is obviously Mookie Betts. Because 286 with a 387, 74 runs, 23 doubles, a triple, 27 bombs, 65 RBI, 7 steals, 56 walks, 66 strikeouts. And it's been even more like better just over the last like month or so. He's just been absolutely on a tear.
Yeah.
He just terrorized the Mets over the weekend. So
he's second in the NL in home runs, if I remember correctly now,
sounds
and
about right.
that's pretty surprising. It's one of those they were saying on the Dodgers broadcast, it's his best power hitting season of his career so far. So I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean he could get 40. You know, the way he's going.
I'm happy that he's going to hit me 30. I wasn't expecting him to even go that high. I was expecting it like 27, 28, like where he's at now. I'll take 30 to 35 and be fine with that.
Right. And then there's the pitching.
And then there's the pitching.
Yeah. So, going with my stipulation that you have to own the guy for the whole season. I'm giving your Cy Young to Paul Sewald.
Okay, I'll take that.
37 and a third. He's 2-0 with 18 saves, 4 homers, 12 walks, 54 strikeouts, a 3.13 with a 102 over 38 appearances. He is the reason that Andres Munoz is still not the closer of the Mariners. Is this guy? So, and fuck this guy because the Mets trounced on this guy too. So,
missed this guy.
For your ads, we talked about Contreras. It was not, it's still pretty recent. So to really see how he does, but I think in terms of what he does for your team, this is your best ad because it gives you it solidifies that catcher position for you, and you can just plug him in and not have to worry about it. And he has been really good over the last 2 or 3 weeks since you picked him up. So, well, you did drop Josh Naylor. So
I did drop Josh Naylor. I mean, I didn't have a spot for him either.
No, but he's just been really, really good.
Yeah, corner outfield and first base is just not a spot that this team needs anything. I sort of built it around that, so not going to need Josh Naylor. I'll take that. Benji, where are you at with my team right now, man?
Well, one thing I will mention is that one of the trades that you did make that I thought actually has basically worked out well, though you haven't started him a lot of the times, was Jack Flaherty, because the guy you moved, and I apologize to everyone publicly for anyone that I offended that are circumcised when I mentioned what I felt like with Gallegos, but like that's been a terrible player. And the fact that Flaherty has been much better in comparison, like of the disappointing trades that you've made, like that was one I think you hit it right on the head.
Is that pun intended?
Very nice.
Over my head. Yes. Jack has been quite good for me. I mean, his numbers don't reflect exactly what I mean. He's 51 walks. God damn, that's a lot of walks. But and a 1.53 whip, like that's his problem. It's the same problem I saw with Dylan Cease, just to a larger extent, and he was cheaper. So I'll take that.
But I mean, but a lot of the guys, and that was the problem with doing this for your team, is a lot of the guys that you have on this team that are performing well are guys that you acquired via trade. Whether it's Chris Bassett, Pablo Lopez, Seth Lugo,
Seth Lugo I drafted and traded away, and then I got him back in free agency. So Seth Lugo is mine twice.
Yeah, I guess there's an asterisk there, but Arozarena, like a lot of these guys, Gunnar Henderson, like these are guys that you acquired in trades. So while free agency maybe hasn't been so kind to you, I think these trades have been working out for you for the most part, at least on an individual basis.
Yes, they're working out. They're working out in so much as each trade I've made, if I would have made a small decision within that trade, it would have been a huge boon to me. With the trade with Frank, the Yuri Perez and Alex Bregman, we were torn between Alex Bregman and Max Muncy. If I make the decision to send Max Muncy, holy shit, is that a good trade for me?
Right. Yep.
in the trade with James McCloskey, I didn't need to include Anthony Santander. And if I don't include Anthony Santander, then that can just be a piece for something else. Or it's a piece for my team while Eloy Jimenez is made of fucking glass. Or maybe I just send Eloy instead. Regardless, that small tweak, and it's a much better trade for me. That being said, this is one of those seasons where the trades didn't work out all the way as I had anticipated for me. But I'm in a good spot, and I'm happy with where I'm at, and I'm excited for what the second half is going to bring.
Yep. All right. Let's get to our 12th place team, and that's going to be Ari Nisman.
Nice.
Yeah. His MVP, there were a couple of candidates here, but I'm going with Yoshida here. 317 with a 381 on base, 50 runs, 19 doubles, 3 triples, 11 homers, 50 RBIs, 6 steals, 27 walks, and 38 strikeouts. Nothing jumped out of the page, but it's just another consistent, just good across the board. And he's been solid as a rookie with the Red Sox. And it was a great pickup, great draft pick by Ari.
How does Jake Berger have 21 homers? Does anybody know how Jake Berger has 21 home runs? That's insane.
His
no.
diet?
It's probably made of hamburgers, I would bet.
Yeah. And well done burgers,
Gross.
Ugh,
yeah,
that's
charred. Yeah, very charred. His Cy Young is going to be Blake Snell. He doesn't have a whole lot of pitchers, so there's not a whole lot to choose from. But it's going to be Blake Snell. 103 innings, 6 and 7, 11 homers, 52 walks, 139 strikeouts, and 271 with a 122. And I think he's been his last 3 starts, he hasn't given up a run. Wow. So he's been really, really good. This is probably the best season he's had since his Cy Young season. So congrats there.
Shout out to Luis Castillo with a sub-3 ERA, and the bullpen is actually pretty good now that Chapman's the closer of Texas.
Yeah. With Barlow, he's actually got closers in there.
And not to mention, I realize that Bieber isn't doing maybe what you would expect to be the ace, but still a sub-4 ERA with a 3.77, 95 strikeouts over 33 walks. I mean, that's a 3-1. It's essentially
that was a third round pick though. I think you wanted more from that.
No, I agree. It's just, at least he hasn't embarrassed himself. He hasn't been his ace, but he hasn't been a number 4, right? He's been basically a number 2. And
now he's going to go 2 weeks without throwing, but won't require surgery. So we'll see when he can come back.
Let's hope he can come back.
Right.
And how many years is he signed for? Because I think the Mets could take a shot and just try to do something to try to get that guy. I would want him on my team.
Let's see. Shane Bieber, he's still under his rookie contract, so he's arbitration eligible for 1 more year next year, and then he's a free agent.
Yeah. We'll see. And also, the MVP for the MVP talk, he has Aaron Judge on this team, who he's missed so much time now that you almost kind of forget about him. But the start that he had, the season he had, to this point is still fantastic. I think this injury has kind of derailed where he was going, obviously. So it's a total disappointment.
Yeah, you almost wonder where Ari's team would be in the standings if he had Judge the entire season. We know he would have had a couple more wins under his belt. It's just a question of who he was facing against, how those stats would have matched up against those opponents. But I gotta say, he wouldn't be in 12th. He could be, something around 10th or 9th instead.
Or Judge could be having another ridiculous season, and it could be propelling him further up the standings.
Possibly.
Because if Judge is in the lineup, then he's not playing guys like Christopher Morel, or he's not playing, some other center fielder. that could have been a different pitcher, and so on and so forth down the rabbit hole we go.
Yeah.
Right.
For his moves, obviously we know Ari doesn't make a ton of moves, but he did add Jorge Soler back on May 8th. And
Well done.
yeah, bravo, because since then the guys hit 273 with a 379, 38 runs, 9 doubles, 16 bombs, 36 RBIs, 33 walks, and 49 strikeouts, and he is his starting right fielder. So,
well done.
Yeah. And as far as drops, he had Jarren Duran and Josh Naylor at one point, so I guess you can call those his worst drops. But really, he didn't really make he doesn't make moves, so there's really not a whole lot of drops to be bad.
Right.
Yeah, but you'd certainly rather have Naylor than Joey Meneses playing first base for you every day. So he had a choice of either one of those, and he said Meneses on the Nationals is the guy I prefer, and that was just straight up wrong.
Yeah. He's not having a bad year though.
No, he's batting 282. No, I understand.
Yeah.
He's been good. It's just the production you're getting out of Naylor.
Yeah.
And considering the fact that the lineup around Naylor in Cleveland is so much better than that of Meneses on the Nationals, honestly, it's not an easy decision to make. And I never really liked Josh Naylor. I didn't trust him. I probably would have, not necessarily wanted this guy for a long period of time either. But just based on knowing how much production you're going to potentially get based on the lineup around him, that should be a clue.
Guys, Shohei Ohtani just hit his 35th home run of the season.
Yeah, he did.
Good.
Yeah,
good. Did he tie the game or take?
Yes.
Did they take the lead? Good.
So they're tied at 3. Speaking of
I can understand why Yankee fans hate me. The fact that I get so much pleasure out of it, the Yankees losing, it almost feels as good as the Mets winning because I'm not pathetic. I can understand.
You're not pathetic. You just hate the Yankees, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You're allowed to hate things that you hate. It's okay.
Right. I can hate much worse things in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Matt Theis is at the plate with the bases loaded against Ronnie Marinara sauce. So,
speaking of Ari,
yes.
But we'll move on to. Shall we move on to Adam?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sitting here in 13th place, his MVP is Matt Olson. 258, but a 360 on base, 71 runs, 18 doubles, 2 triples, 30 bombs, 77 RBIs, a steal, 54 walks, and 111 strikeouts. This is what you're going to get with Matt Olson. A lot of strikeouts, a shitty batting average, but 30 home runs.
That's not a shitty batting average. Let's defend 258 is not a shitty batting average when league average is 242.
Fair. Okay, that's fair. But you know what I'm saying. It's not MVP type batting average.
No, but it's better than what it was the last couple of years because the shift has been outlawed. This is exactly what we were supposed to see. We were supposed to see guys who hit 210 and 220 hit 260 because that's what the shift was trying to get rid of in the first place.
Yeah, you have Pete Alonso hitting 208.
That's because Pete Alonso is right-handed and slow. This guy's left-handed and slow. There's a difference.
Got it. Okay. Got that, Pete.
Anyway.
Become a lefty. On the pitching side, the Cy Young is going to go to Joe Ryan, 112 in the third inning.
Really? It's not Max Scherzer? Okay.
Nope, it's not Max Scherzer.
Definitely not.
8-6, 17 homers, 21 walks, only 21 walks, 131 strikeouts, 377 with a 103 whip. Scherzer's been better lately, but I don't know. I see Joe Ryan every time out, and he just looks like he's always throwing a good game. Scherzer, not. It's Scherzer 8-3 versus 8-6, but I think that's
hell. Doom Danning is 8-2.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry. That's Dane Dunning. I'm sorry.
What did you call him?
Dune Danning.
Dune Danning.
Same thing.
For his ads, real quick, he did add Jack Sawinski, just a 230, but a 362 on base, 35 runs, 10 doubles, 15 homers, 40 RBIs, 41 walks, and 85 strikeouts and 7 steals since May 19th. He also added our good friend Hector Neris. Since he added him on May 6th, and he's pitched 28 games, 24 and 2/3. He's 3-1 with a 109 and a 120 with 29 strikeouts.
Wow. Jason, you going to trade for him? Oh, wait, you can't.
Yeah, if I can get Adam to drop him, I will place a waiver claim. Nobody else
There you
can.
go.
That'll work as a trade, right?
That counts. Counts.
In terms of his drops, well, on April 18th, he dropped Whit Merrifield.
Wow.
I do remember that happening.
Yeah. And I was the lucky one. I got him, and then I traded him to Frank, and the rest is history. But since he dropped him on April 18th, the guy's hitting 288 with a 346, 31 runs, 14 doubles, 5 bombs, 32 RBIs, 21 walks, 49 strikeouts, and 17 steals.
Solid numbers across the board. Not amazing, but it's just much better production that he would be getting from whomever. Like even Gleyber, like he's better than Gleyber Torres.
Yeah. Better than
what you're describing is 11th round value. And that's where he drafted him. And he held on to him to the middle of April. That's not enough time.
Yeah, and he talked to me and he said, like, next year I'm gonna have more patience. Like there were certain guys like him that he let go of that he wishes he didn't. Mm-hmm. And his whole concern of dropping guys was just like, I'm afraid someone else will snag them. But, I try to remind him, like, with the position players, I can hear you. But, like, bullpen guys that are a dime a dozen, like, those are guys you can just ditch. You know what I mean? Yeah. They'll come right back.
Yeah. I just churned out Josh Winkowski this week.
All right, I think that's going to move us on to our 14th place team, and that's going to be Brian Lebo. It was kind of tough to find an MVP here because we've documented how not great his offense has been this year. I'm going to give it to Jonathan India with his 245 and 333 on base, 66 runs, 17 doubles, 13 homers, 49 RBIs, 12 steals, 36 walks, and 82 strikeouts. I mean, as far as guys that he drafted that are still on this team, I mean, Trey Turner has not had a good year.
No, not for what we expected him. No,
right. So, I there really wasn't much of another candidate. So is Jonathan
India 10th rounder is his MVP. You know what? Like I said this about India when the season started. Like he's a nice piece. He's not going to carry your team.
No.
And this is exactly what he is. You look at that line and you're like, that's a nice piece. That can't carry his team.
No, he can't be your leader. No.
Yeah. And on the pitching side, again, it wasn't great. Marcus Stroman's having a great year. So I had to give it to Stroman. 288 with 109 over 118 and 2/3 innings, 10 and 6. 6 homers, 42 walks, and 101 strikeouts. David Bednar is also having a great year out of the bullpen. That's pretty much as far as it gets.
Shane McClanahan's having a good year.
Yeah,
253 with 101 strikeouts. Listen. His rotation is great.
Yeah.
Yes,
it is a great rotation.
He was hurt
compared to everybody else.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I don't have a best ad for him. He kind of turns his lineup over a lot. So in terms of like free agent ads, there really wasn't a whole lot. He did drop James Paxton. We mentioned him with Josh Haber. Okay. Since he dropped him on June 2nd, 30 innings. He's 3-0 with a 180 and a 076 with 28 strikeouts.
There you go. Dropped him right before a hot stretch. Okay.
Yeah. Probably wish he still held on to that guy because now Kevin Gossman's banged up, and I mean, nice that he got McClanahan back, but yeah.
McClanahan, who didn't win today because the Rays bullpen couldn't hang on, and Pete Fairbanks cost him the game with a wild pitch. So that's fun.
Oopsie.
All right, Benji, you got anything on Lebo's team here?
I think we didn't bring up his drop though, right? Did we?
That was his drop. That was his drop. It was James Paxton.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say, though I didn't hate it at the time, it just in hindsight it looks rough. Is a trade that he made is giving up Michael Harris for Brandon Donovan. Like
Yeah.
he was shedding off a guy that was having a miserable start to the season and what looked like a sophomore slump. The only risk that he took is that the Braves had so many good players, and this guy was still going to get a lot of pitches to hit and the opportunity to turn it around. But I certainly don't blame Brian Lebo for that trade. I mean, it on paper, it looked like it made a lot of sense for his team. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
Can't help when the guy flicks the switch and goes, "Oh, I guess I'll hit 600 this week now."
Yeah, that's me.
Just because I'm now owned by a Braves fan. That's basically it was a Brave getting a Brave fan getting a Brave and a Cardinal fan getting a Cardinal.
Yeah, that's basically what it was.
That's what it comes down to.
Who did he trade off to get Andrew McCutchen? Do we remember?
I have it.
Yeah.
Sorry to slow down the show.
No, I'm blanking on it.
Alex Lang.
Yeah.
Wait, he's not the closer for the Tigers anymore, is he?
Still is for
Yeah,
now,
he
I
is.
guess.
Oh, wow.
Kind of. I mean, when they win games.
Yeah.
All right, I guess that brings us to Christian, huh?
It does. His MVP is going to be Alex Verdugo, 286 with a 356, 57 runs, 26 doubles, four triples, 7 homers, 39 RBIs, 4 steals, 32 walks, and 48 strikeouts. Again, just another consistent, good line. Not great, but it's good.
Yeah, again, in that same sort of range, this was another 10th round pick. So we're finding dudes who will put up consistent numbers in about the 10th, 11th round.
For his pitching, you know what? I'll be honest, I didn't quite realize how good of a year he's having, but Nathan Eovaldi, 283 with a 102 over 117 and 2/3, 10 and 3, 8 homers, 31 walks, and 109 strikeouts. Yeah, and he was an all-star. So, that's a solid pick. That was in the 15th. That's a 15th round pick. So that's great value.
My question is how many other teams could have signed this guy in the offseason and didn't, and the Rangers just go, okay, yeah, you with the busted arm, you can come play, and you with the busted arm, you can come play, and you're getting production out of this guy. 233rd overall. Really nice pick there.
Yep, very well done. We mentioned that he ended up with Duran, so he's the lucky one. But probably his best ad is Mitch Keller. He added this guy on April 27th. Mm-hmm. He didn't even get drafted. He was just out there on the waiver wire. And 7-4 with 99 strikeouts, a 319 and a 108 over 87 and a third innings since he added him on April 27th, and has been far and away the Pirates' best pitcher. So
well done, sir. Way to identify the ace of the Pittsburgh Pirates while they were hot at the end of April.
Yes. Yeah. As far as his drops, he dropped Francisco Alvarez, but who didn't? And he also dropped Braxton Garrett, who we mentioned on Mike Haber's team. Mm-hmm. He was the one who let him go. So
there you go, Benji. How you feeling about Christian's team here as we wind down?
I just wish he was a little bit more on top of it. It seems it's been evident that over the last few weeks there just hasn't been a lot of activity or consistent just work as far as putting the team together. I mean, I don't even know how long Chirinos has been just sitting there on the roster on the NA spot and just
actually that just happened today. He just
got DFA.
I know this because I roster him in 3 or 4 other leagues and I just cut him. So that just happened today.
Touche. But
my question would be AJ Minter.
AJ Minter, Harold Ramirez not starting today, and then James Outman played yesterday, I think, and he sat him where he certainly could have gotten Outman in because Harold Ramirez didn't start, Verdugo didn't start, Jaron Duran didn't start, and Outman, yeah, an 0 for 2, but with a run, 2 walks, and a strikeout, like those little stats could help ultimately. Just, it's just things that I've noticed over the last couple of weeks that, and he's even mentioned that he hasn't really been on top of it either. So this is a guy all season. If he did pay attention consistently all year, he'd probably be in a better spot. Would he be in 7th, 8th, or 9th place? Maybe not, probably not, but he would still be at least fighting more consistently and posing a threat to teams down the stretch. And again, for the right now, he's playing Mike Haber. In the next 7 weeks, basically all of them are against teams that are competing in the playoffs. So it would be nice if he could play a role in the story of, spoiling a team and knocking them out of the playoffs.
And he could do that accidentally. There's enough of a way that, like, look, I'm not saying that he could accidentally for 7 days do it, but you could accidentally have a Sunday that kind of fucks with somebody, right?
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm hoping he's on top enough to make the minimum. Like, that is my biggest concern.
Yes. Yes. All right, that brings us to Matt Losey's 68 game under 500 team.
Yes, and he actually does have an MVP. Of all people, it's Justin Turner. The guy's having a real resurgent season. 291 with a 362, 58 runs, 21 doubles, 14 bombs, 56 RBIs, 4 steals, 35 walks, 64 strikeouts. He look 3. I've now mentioned 3 Red Sox for MVPs in the last 4 or 5 teams. So take that for what you will.
My co-host Ben will take that for yet another reason that he's got the Red Sox going to the playoffs this year.
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of a few. I mean, the fact that they're doing things with Pivetta and Paxton right now, and you're not expecting it, but Whitlock, Sale, and Kluber, say what you will about your opinion on these 3 pitchers and what you believe they will be, there's still 3 arms that you're adding at, like, basically as like trade deadline acquisitions, and Trevor Story. I really do believe that this team could go on an insane surge towards, like, in the end of August and September.
Speaking of Pivetta, Jason, I told you before we came on that he was taking over that game for Boston.
Yeah.
Did you see what he did tonight?
No, what did he do?
6 innings in relief, 13 strikeouts, nothing earned.
Oh my God.
13 strikeouts out of the bullpen.
Out of the bullpen, because he came in the 3rd.
Because I had him. I had him like just before the break. Just before the break.
He owned him and dropped him just before the break.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, we'll ignore that. I don't have a Cy Young for Matt.
Then I'm gonna go with this Carmen Scrabble last name.
Okay, that works.
Come on, it's like 47 points in Scrabble.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a really got the K and the C.
Yeah. Him.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about it's just Nick Pivetta for tonight?
Sure. Yeah. We'll go Pivetta for a Monday night 6-inning relief appearance.
Well, Arias, I mean, he hasn't had a good year by any means, but I mean, still an over 500 record, 70 strikeouts, over 15 walks is very good.
Yeah, he missed a lot of time, and
yes, he did.
He's not what he was supposed to be.
Expected to be.
Michael Kopech should be the pickup, right? That should be the ad.
I have Josh Lowe. Well, on the hitter side anyway, Josh Lowe.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, 264, 305, 31 runs, 14 doubles, 10 homers, 42 RBIs, 14 walks, 71 strikeouts, and 18 steals. He added him on April 13th, and that's been the ad.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can make the argument that Kopech on the pitching side for sure.
Absolutely.
And he dropped Freddie Peralta. So
he did. Yeah. Thank you for that one.
Oh, that's the guy you dropped. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Who very well could fit into this rotation. But I mean, Bradish, Josiah Gray, Urias, Kopech, Bello.
Pivetta.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Pivetta out of the bullpen for 13 strikeouts. Sure. In Oakland. What a mess. Jason, you did a great job with this, man. I really appreciate you doing this for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It was again, it was good to see, a good gut check of where we are halfway through the season. And guys, we have a whole nother half to go now. Like we are in the second half, and it's just gonna get real.
Absolutely. Benjamin, thanks for being here with us, man.
It's a pleasure, man. 8 more matchups in the regular season and then 3 more in the postseason. Yeah, we've got a really, really intense second half that I'm absolutely expecting. And I really appreciate the hard work you guys put into this show and doing all the research. You really you gave us a lot to listen to and a lot to think about over the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for being here, as always, for listening and for giving us the content to make our show what it is. We would have nothing without the league, and we'd have nothing without you guys. So thank you all so much. Later on this week, Benjamin and I will be recording the record book show, so get ready for that one. I've also got material for all of the trades that we've had this year. If we want to do that as well, we could do that. Either way, it's going to be a great week for you guys as our listeners. So make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you ring any bells or get notifications on when we upload stuff, because I can't stress it enough. We have to make these things work for us. So thank you guys once again. And until next time, guys, it's been real. It's been fun. And it is always real fun in the bigs. We'll see you guys next time.